Good evening and welcome to the Australian Stock Market Show. With no signs of sellers in the last 6 weeks, is the All Ordinaries Index now in a state of euphoria? Well, stay tuned as we'll discuss our thoughts on that shortly. We'll also take a look at world currencies, and for our main topic in tonight's show, we get into is iron ore set for a comeback? BHP, Rio Tinto, Fortescue and more in focus. First up, we'll share our hot stock tip for the week, so sit back and relax. Again, tonight is jam-packed as we have lots of emails to answer. We'll also take your phone calls and give you the answers to some of the important questions around the market. Tonight we're excited to share our thoughts on some great stocks like BHP, Fortescue Metals, Rio Tinto, major currencies and more, so get comfortable as we'll get into those soon. I'm Doug Gillum and I'm your host for tonight, and joining me are two of our team of highly experienced analysts and professional traders, Janine Cox and Philip Fortescue, and together we're Australia's most trusted stock market educators. Well, that was a great start, guys, wasn't it?
It can only get better, right?
It's only going to get better.
How are you?
Yep, great, thank you.
Good, how are you?
Very good, fed, ready to go.
Fed and ready to go. All right. Well, tonight, as mentioned, we do get into the major world currencies. But first, let's take a look at this week's hot stock tip. Phil, what have you got for us?
I have a great hot stock tip tonight. It is Electro-Optic Systems, code EOS. So let's get straight into it on your screen. Right now is the marketindex.com. And Electro-Optic Systems is a technological company focused on developing advanced technology products and services for the global defence and space domain. So in a very, very interesting field at the moment, given what is happening globally. And I'll just get you to focus your eye on this section here. Similar companies, Drone Shield is there as well. And for those that have been watching our show would know, the performance of Drone Shield at the time we had a good look at it. So maybe there's something in that as well, but some performance. It's got a 1-year performance of 56%, which is quite nice. It's outperforming the sector on a 1-year basis by 37%. And it's also outperforming the ASX 200 on a 1-year basis by 36%. Now the market cap is on the smallish side. It is 286 million and it is ranked outside the top 500. But on the show lately with the hot stocks, we've been looking at top 200 stocks. I wanted to venture out and go a little bit to the dark side, if you will, and go for some of these emerging players. Now let's go to the chart. I want to start off on the monthly here, and obviously, big picture first. I've marked this rectangle box down at around 45 odd cents, 50 cents. And to me, it's very obvious that has been the springboard to pretty much every major move that has happened for this particular stock. And most recently, we've hit it back again in January 2023. What's come out of that is quite nice. I've also marked 2 further levels, which in my opinion are the most significant levels of support and resistance. And what's very exciting about what's happening right now is you can see this level here at $1.36 provided resistance back in 2010, a bit of support in 2016, but you saw the stock hover through and find its feet before really taking off. And what's really interesting now is that if I zoom in, we are on the flip side of the this important level at $1.37. We're also respecting a very nice momentum line as the stock's rising and going up. This rise is quite nice because it's not very sharp like when you're talking about euphoric type rises. It looks sustainable in time. It's longer than anything we've seen coming out of this significant correction. And right now the stock is giving us one of those really nice consolidations or compressions. And just one more thing I wanted to pick up on this monthly chart. And what's quite interesting is that as it's expanding, you can see as we go through periods in the past, what happens when stocks expand? It's like when they get to that expansion phase, it's either they're going to become euphoric and find reversals like what happened, if we go back to the chart, what happened throughout this period through here. But then if you start to see expansion like we saw through here and the stock hold up, that's generally a sign that that move up is represented by really strong buying. And right now we're seeing that dynamic happening. We saw really strong expansion in February 24. Price has struggled to get below that level, holding on support. That tells me that this is a support of really strong buying. And if we start to get breaks above, the March high, then I think that's going to signal the next leg up. Just be careful. There is resistance at around $2.40. So the strategy there could be to play it just under or just above. And one other thing to add with this one, if we go on the weekly chart, we can see that the volume from November, October 22 to December 23 has been on a particular level, which is, down where we've marked that black horizontal line. And since January 2024, the volume has generally picked up. So rising trend, rising volume. I mean, there's quite a lot of things to like about this one.
I like what you've brought up, and I love it because you actually mentioned Drone Shield.
Yes.
And I remember seeing that at the Microcap conference.
Oh, yes.
Years ago when it was very low down and it shot off like a rocket. And same with Jumbo Interactive and quite a few others. But I know Phil and I are going to be at the Microcap conference next Tuesday and Wednesday right here in Melbourne at the Sofitel Hotel. So if you want to come, give us a yell and we might be able to get you a discounted ticket. But anyway, that is it for our weekly hot stock tip. Now shortly we'll get into our topic for the night. But before we do, right now is your opportunity to get involved in the show and have your questions answered. Now remember, we prioritise phone callers, so call now on 0392909988, or you can text your question to the number on your screen. Now the first caller into the show right now gets a free copy of my book, Accelerate Your Wealth, so make sure you pick up your phone and dial 0392909988. Now while you do that, tonight we'll give you our thoughts on major world currencies, so let's get into it.
On your screen right now is a watch list of the major world currencies. And of course, this is my favourite segment of the month. We've got British pound versus the US dollar at the top of the board there. I've got to make it sound exciting, don't I?
Well, it is.
Up 2%. But I mean, if you've got relatives over in the UK, then of course it would be interesting. Or maybe you're planning on travelling. All of these things are important. But I guess looking at what's going with euro and US dollar, it's actually down 2%. So most of the other currencies are in the red so far this year. I mean, I remember we were having a conversation on a previous show about the Japanese yen versus the US dollar and how the currency had fallen significantly. That's probably the one that sort of stands out to us as being closer to home and making the biggest move. The one that I'm interested in today, I want you to guess, Phil, which one is it?
The Aussie dollar, US dollar.
Yep.
I think, yes. Is that the one? Am I right?
That is the one.
I don't know. Maybe we should sack her and maybe do this ourselves. She doesn't seem to be into it.
So before we get to the chart of the Aussie dollar, take a look at these forecasts from our big banks, which shows ANZ forecasting one Australian dollar will be worth 70 cents US by year's end. Westpac, on the other hand, forecasts the Australian US dollar exchange rate to be worth 67 cents US by the end of the year, and NAB anticipates one Australian dollar will be worth 69 cents US by December. Well, should we pick the eyes out of that, Phil, and see what we think?
So it's all up.
Let's have a look, yes. But it's quite interesting because obviously, we were talking about, how that affects the mining price. And, with, you've mentioned as well off air, the Brazilian dollar really falling down. So that might make, the situation quite interesting in terms of us exporting our coal, or the attractiveness of the Australian coal, or iron ore, versus other parts of the world, which could play very big
exactly.
I know a 1 cent move in the Aussie dollar, US dollar currency pair is huge difference to BHP's bottom line, and would be to Rio and Fortescue as well. So, to me, but I'm interested in have a look at what you got to show, Janine.
All right, let's go to the charts again. So we can see here on the left-hand side, we've got the monthly chart, the Aussie US dollar, and we've had this sort of consolidation happening over time. There's a really strong base there. I'm just going to expand out that monthly chart so you can see it. Around, that's approximately 61, is it? I think it's about 60.
Quite a safe forecast,
let's say. But it's been hovering around that level for quite some time, trying to find support there. It looks like it's actually succeeding, and we're starting to see a bit of strength now from the Aussie US dollar pair. We can see this month, though, it's pulled back quite a bit. Obviously, BHP and Rio will be appreciating that, but we can't be so silly to think that they're not going to be planning in advance for this information. If the banks are all saying that the currency is going to rise, they would have been preparing for that. Now, the high over recent months has been up around 69.34 cents. So, look, we just need to wait and see whether there's a bit of a reversal at the moment, given it's down this month. We need to see a rise back above this level, but it could easily break out of this sideways move in the near term.
Well, it looks very much that way to me. It's obviously come into this big level of support around 62 odd cents. And I mean, it looks like right now that there is a bit of indecision or you know, sideways type movement. But if we see the US drop rates again and Australia doesn't follow, then that would be a nice you know, situation where that could send the Aussie dollar higher against the US dollar especially. So that might be what the market is waiting for here. I mean, from a technical perspective, if we go back to the chart, we've got this long-term momentum line that it looks like it's about to break through. But I mean, geez, you know, they're not very risky with their forecasts, the banks. It's literally
not
right
very
there.
risky with anything, the banks.
It's right there at 70 cents saying it's what it's going to be.
The question is, are they going to be wrong? I guess that's the really important one, isn't it? So, I mean, if the currency continues to fall a bit further, it's now, at the moment it was about 66, I think, today, 0.2, but if it continues to fall, they're going to be wrong, and that's going to be quite an interesting scenario.
Well, that's right, yes.
Never let a bad prediction get in the way of you doing it another one. So that's what I reckon. Anyway, well, that is it for our thoughts on world currencies. Now, before we get into our first email, remember to get your questions answered live on air. You will need to call or text into the show. You can also send your questions to info@wealthwithin.com.au and we'll answer them in next week's show. Now let's get into our first question. Our first email is from Vicky saying, my financial advisor has put Capstone Copper as a buy. I really like the way copper is headed, but looking at the chart, I'm wondering if it's going to have a pullback before another rise. I see resistance at $11.58. I'm going to go to you, Janine, on this one.
I knew you would, and I wasn't ready. That was perfect timing, wasn't it?
I was watching out of the corner of my eye and
he's going to go to
I'm
me,
going to get her.
Okay, I'm just having a play here. Now you can see on the screen there, Capstone Copper recently made a high. It's broken through this point, which is interesting. So it's looking at resistance around 11.58. I agree. So well done. It is important, that level, sort of around that level. I wouldn't be so precise to say 11.58. I mean, you could say 11.76, whatever you know, excites you there. But looking at the way that it's unfolding now, we've got a couple of weeks down. So we just need to see it find a bit of support. I mean, it's not to say, Phil, it might actually come down further. We could see a bit of a drop down. The worst case scenario would be if it came back to, you know, another 10%. At the moment, I'm not seeing that, but we just have to wait and see. A rise above this week's high, so if from now on, following this week, if we get a rise above 11.48, then it could break out above this high, but it's just a waiting game right now.
Well, the interesting part of that email was, you know, waiting for a pullback. To me, the stock already looks like it's pulling back at the moment, and you know, in terms of getting that right entry, it's one thing for a stock to pull back, but the safer idea or move is waiting for that confirmation and getting the stock back on the turn up to confirm that there's buyers picking it up off those lows. So,
well, I think that's what's the point, because I mean, waiting for the pullback, I'd say big tick, you know, in actually choosing to do that, because that's obviously showing weakness, and you want strength to be behind you. You want the buying to be behind you, pushing the stock up before you commit. So I agree. I'd wait until it got above that resistance.
You know what I like, that she didn't blindly just go yes with the financial advisor go to buy into it. Because how many stories do we get? My financial advisor bought me into these stocks, and now look at them. You know, and I think that's really big tick for me to say yes. You're checking on what your financial advisor. He may not be wrong. I'm just saying I think it's fantastic that you're actually checking on it and doing the right thing for you. So well done for that. Well, next is Christina asking about the future prospect of Origin Energy. She goes to say, I don't hold any shares at the moment, planning to purchase at the nearest entry point, then hold for about 1 year. I think the clean energy industry is on the rise, but not sure how this company will perform during this time frame. Now, I'm going to go to you, Phil, because you're ready.
all right, so let's go to the chart there for you, Christina. But I mean, it's a long-term outlook, which is quite interesting, 1 year outlook. I wonder why, you know, I always find it interesting when people put a specific time frame on that outlook. It's when I see outlooks being put, generally it's, you know, if you're putting one relative to price, if I think it's going to get to a certain level, but time itself, that 1 year, I'd love to know. But anyway, we don't have more of that email to dissect, but let's go back to the chart and have a look at what Origin is doing. And I mean, look, right now it is in a very nice uptrend. The stock recently cleared a significant level, which was this particular high back in May 2018. And right now, the move, as it's rolling through trend, it doesn't look like anything unsustainable or euphoric, if you will. Like if we just stick to the monthly chart, you can see the signs near the end were what happened during this period in April 2008, where you saw this huge expansion with no real, I guess, stability. We are not seeing any of that just yet, and similar goes on the way down. We saw this big blow-off, which then saw a reversal, and again back in January 2020. Right now, we're quite nicely in trend. I think it's about the strategy. 1 year, regardless of the time frame, I would say you need to manage this position, because while it's in trend, the further it goes up, the further you get to an end at some point. So I would say as long as you've got your capital protection, managing the trade as it's going, it's in trend, don't fight the long-term trend. I think it's a good
Well,
trade.
that's what I would say, to stay with it. Like I know quite often when you get somebody, and Janine and I have had this numerous times, where somebody says, I'm going to do this for 6 months or 12 months, and then when you start asking them, and you find out, I'm going to buy a house in 6 months, or I'm going overseas and I've got it's funding with that, and you're thinking, well, how important is what you need to do with the money, and is it important enough that you put your money at risk to not have all of it when you do buy the house and whatever else? And I know we've had that conversation how many times?
Loads.
Loads with people. So again, I wouldn't put a time frame on it. I would just hold while it's going up and
We do like a
get out.
stock choice though.
Yeah, it's
really
good stock choice.
Big tick there, Christina, on the stock choice. And also it's a bonus that it's actually pulling back right now. So your timing, in my view, is actually perfect.
It's very good.
Yeah, waiting for this pullback, let it test that level, let the higher risk money take it, and then at the moment it might even come back a bit further and you'll get a better opportunity.
Well, give us a call on 929-099-88 so we can discuss any questions you've got, or look at a stock that you may be looking at yourself, or you can send us a text to the number that keeps popping up on your screen. Now that is it for our take on Origin Energy. Now we're going to dive into a topic that forms the foundation of 21st century economies. Steel, a commodity embedded in the fabric of the Australian economy, given iron ore is one of our major exports globally. And so with the recent rise in global steel production and demand, what does the future hold for some of Australia's largest iron ore companies like BHP, Rio and Fortescue Metals? Now we'll get into those stocks shortly, but zooming out, big picture first, have a look at this graph which shows Australia's iron ore production is forecast to grow at a compound annual growth rate of 3.8%, reaching over 1,200 megatons by 2030. So, what makes Australia so popular? Well, we aren't the only ones to produce iron ore. Now, I'm going to go to you, Janine, because you love iron ore and stocks around that.
Wouldn't it be nice if we were the only ones producing it? But there is competition. But look, we've got some of the best resources in the world, the largest resource of iron ore in the world. And also it's the proximity to Asian countries that, have the huge demand for it. The quality of the ore is also another one that's really important. And I just think it's also the stability of our, this country. So there are some countries around the world where commodities are mined and there's not that stability, or some might argue that there isn't that stability in the political arena, but that's a whole other story.
We won't get into politics on this show, Janine, but anyway, when you dig into the statistics, it becomes so eye-opening how much of a presence a small nation like Australia has globally. For example, Western Australia accounts for 33% of the world's total iron ore output. Now, as you can see here, the exciting part is that in 2022 and 2023, BHP and Fortescue both reported record-breaking production numbers. So, with increasing production, the question begs, who's it all going to, Phil?
Well, a staggering 85% of WA's iron ore exports go to China, followed by Japan, South Korea, Taiwan and Indonesia, which is quite interesting because, especially if that amount that goes to China, because there's been growing concerns about the health of the economy there since COVID. But recently China passed a $114 billion stimulus package, which has seen the iron ore futures rally quite a bit in Asia. So very big developments.
Well, that's very interesting, isn't it? And no surprise the material sector has picked up recently here also, but there are other neighbouring regions which are expanding rapidly that could further boost demand. Now, I know I think India is one of them, isn't it, Janine?
Yeah, India, three of my favourite, most interesting countries, Vietnam, the Philippines and India, all doing a lot of development, and it's going to require vast amounts of resources, including iron ore, over the coming decades.
Beautiful countries. Visited them, all of them, and I'll go back to all of them. They're all lovely places to go. Now let's turn to the price of iron ore, because with demand increasing and China's recent stimulus, are there signs it has bottomed out? Now, with iron ore, we need to be looking at whatever the share price is doing compared to the US dollar. And obviously, if we're thinking the US dollar is going to be weaker against the Australian dollar, that's going to make a whole difference to our mining companies. But I'm going to go to you, Phil, and talk a bit about this.
Yeah, so how about we bring up the chart of iron ore, actually. We'll look at the futures and show them right now. But, I mean, as you mentioned, Dale, what's quite interesting is that October has been quite an interesting month for iron ore. It has bounced. And if we apply a horizontal line through the $92 level, you can see that, and I mean, now I'm just playing with levels here, Janine, but $92 to $95 has been a real strong support since we had this, basically capitulation out from July 2021. So there is an argument right now that iron ore has stabilised, and, that meaning what that may mean moving forward. I think if we can get going now, because obviously it's still 1 month, it's very early. I mean, you can clearly see that although it's finding support, it is ticking down somewhat to the downside slowly. So I'd like to see a further month up, perhaps November, December, get through that Christmas period, print a few months up, take out the May 2024 high, that's a must. And then that could be the first sign that we are turning the corner here. I'm
excited. What about you, Jane?
Look, I'm not going to get too excited at this point, because looking at that chart again just for a moment, because we, like Phil said, we only have that 1 month up. I did some analysis and I did a podcast on this. So if you've looked at our podcast lately, you might scroll through the list and see if you can find my podcast. But looking at BHP and iron ore and what was going on, I still think that there's a risk to the downside right now for iron ore. And my worst case scenario was somewhere between $60 and $70. So it's I think some of the big institutions were talking about $80 a tonne. So
$79. Sorry, 79 cents, 80 cents. I think the lowest one was 67, and we're at 66 at the moment, wasn't it? So all of them up, but how strong by the end of the year anyway? Anything you'd like to say, Phil, before we finish?
Oh no, I mean, it's quite nice. We've seen the materials sector also representing that similar type movement where it's trying to find its base, and we've been talking for so long that if the materials sector can get going, obviously that's going to bode so well for our market moving forward. So I think this could be an early signal that, hey, there's no confirmation just yet, but keep a very close eye on things.
All right, so how about we get into some stocks? So I know you've got some rippers.
All right, we sure do. How about we start off with Janine's favourite, the biggest one of the lot?
BHP.
Yes.
BHP and Rio, actually. I think Rio is actually looking better than BHP at the moment. But we don't really see any sort of confirmation yet. It's really early days, and this sort of, we need to see a test of this. What was that? I mean, okay, it was a bounce in response to what was going on with China, but how real is that, and can investors really rely on that? And I'm not pegging too much hope on that just yet. For a start, to prove anything, it has to get through this level now. So that's the line in the sand for me.
So you're thinking that bounce was more just retail investors reacting to a news thing rather than institutional buying?
No, I think it was instos. You're not going to get a big move like that without instos being involved in it. So that was them, talking up the story. Sure, there may have been a lot of retail investors that tried to ride that wave, but they would have got caught out because the instos would have made the money on the way up. The retail investors get in at the top, and then the instos sell off, and then it comes back down again. I mean, isn't that the way of the stock?
So the instos were using it for them to make money quickly?
I think so.
Okay. And we're talking about brokers, or we're talking about fund managers, or just broadly?
Oh, I'm not going to throw everybody into the same basket.
Let's throw everybody into the basket. It's fine. See what happens when they come out the other end. It's okay.
Oh, look. Anyway, BHP is a great stock. Okay, can we go back to the stock?
Well, we can get Phil to give his thoughts.
Okay,
how about that?
how about that?
Well, you can impose yourself.
But to me, right now, it's at such a crucial point. Everything Janine said does make sense, but right now it's giving you the opportunity to tell you whether this is basically just a suckers rally or there's more substance to it, because we're in the situation now where sellers are getting involved. So we've had the move from the buyers, they played their hand, sellers are now playing their hand, and we've only managed to claw back half of what we've run up with the buying through, what are we here, in 27th of September. So as long as we hold above these levels and, you know, not start taking out this exorbitant buying, then you have to think in the short to medium term, it's still a bullish scenario. That being said, the price action of BHP is, can I use the word ugly? It's been very ugly recently, and you know that line that you've drawn through there, Janine, that's a level, even if buyers were to reverse and start moving on up, they're going to have to get through $46 if you're thinking that some kind of sustained trend is going to happen here.
And then you're going to have to set a really good stop, because there can still be some false rallies into these
Exactly.
highs.
That's exactly what I was just about to say. You're going to have to really know how to trade this stock, because even if it does, I mean, the moves since April 2022, you can see no real sustained trend has been forming. There's ticks up, ticks down. These are really, if you're going to get anything...
So it's overdue for a run.
They're short-term plays, yes. So, I mean, the catalyst is there if it's real. We get there's talk about China doing another bout of stimulus. So
well, that probably would fire it up, wouldn't it?
Well, if we get a second bout of stimulus, then that might clear all this choppy sideways action we've got.
Depends what it is, though.
Yeah, with BHP. Yeah, well, it took well to the first one.
True.
With the move. So I think right now it's a case of you're either going to play this really short term or just sit on your feet and wait for price to really get out into trend and catch that safe trade.
So what do you think is going to trigger? Like, you're just thinking China doing another stimulus package, or is it going to be broadly coming from India and other places as well? What are you thinking?
Right now, China's the one that's in focus. So I would wait for that news. I mean, sure, there could be something to spring out of, you know, the other countries to boost the demand or what have you, or it could have just been something new evolving in BHP itself. So following the stock, but focusing purely on the price action, there's no sign of, and a lot of the time, if news is to come out, you're going to see it first in price. So I would, you know, focus on that price action right now.
So it's transparent to us all,
Wait for a break above $46 before I got super excited about things here.
All right, there you've got that one. So I know you've got another one, Janine.
We've got loads more, and Rio, obviously it's good to check in to see that any difference between Rio and BHP at all times. It's made a similar move as part of the reaction to that news with this big outside bar. We've got all of these tops here though, you know, this very toppy pattern that's forming. People are saying, oh, is this a triple top on Rio? And look, I mean, I can't rule it out 100%. It's not. It doesn't mean that it's not, but for our market to go up, BHP and Rio have to go up eventually. And we're in a bull phase, but it doesn't mean we might not see a test of this low here that's always possible in September. So I would just say, look, keep a really close eye on these stocks, because you're going to be in pole position to get some great returns out of them. That's really the point.
What do you reckon, Phil?
Yeah, totally agree. I mean, if we just go to the weekly chart, because that's probably the best way to look at these stocks, given the I guess, compressed volatility, you're not getting any real clean trends in the longer time frame.
They've been traders' stocks, really, haven't
Absolutely, yeah, and that's why it's, you
in
know,
and out for a couple of months, and that's it.
Yeah, which is why looking at the weekly chart probably bodes well in this scenario right now. And again, you know, we're coming into testing this really strong buying. So right now, as long as Rio can hold above these levels, I mean, in fact, if it can hold 117, that would be quite bullish, because it's really not faltering any lower. You'd start to get more worried. If it goes back down and takes obviously a $1.05 out, then I would say, well, we're going back to test these lows at $1 or $1.02, which again, then you're stuck in that sideways choppy type price action. But right now, if we can find a base around 118, 117, break this high in October 2024, then obviously we're going back to test these highs through here. And then if we can get through there, hey, maybe we're going to finally break out of this sideways price action.
I mean, traditionally these stocks, I mean, if you go back in the last few decades, advisors generally put these stocks in people's portfolios, you know, one or two banks, and then your BHPs, your Rios into that. But you just mentioned before that these stocks are traders' stocks. So you're suggesting that moving forward they'll be turning a bit more into investor stocks as well?
Correct, yes.
So
they will turn back to being more investor stocks as we go more into the boom phase. But I think what's going to happen, and it's really good that you raised this point about advisors
That's why I'm sitting in this chair.
putting people into these stocks, is because you can't just let them ride forever, as we saw when the correction happened from 2011 to 2016. So we know that there's a bull market, and we know that there'll be a peak. We know that when the market peaks, that mining stocks peak late, but they do go through the crunch. So advisors want to take care to continue to recommend stocks into that high and to be mindful that you can't just keep recommending them all the way up and then all the way down after that, when it's coming down. It's about timing, isn't it?
Absolutely. Well, anyway, so I'm sure you got another stock for us to look at. I'm sure
really?
you got more than enough.
I thought we said it all.
No, we've got plenty more to go. Fortescue Metals. Now, this one's very interesting in itself. Obviously, much more volatile than the previous two. You can see the way this one has reacted out from the December 23 highs. It fell much further, and it come back into, if I mark, where is our momentum line through here? If I can mark a significant low through here, it's tested almost to this gradient, the September low. And again, coming out of the nice news, obviously, this one's actually holding up a bit better than Rio and BHP, to the fact that, if you can look at how far it has fallen since what happened on the 27th of September, it's actually consolidating near the high. So that in itself is a bit of a clue in terms of what could come next. But, just like the other two, I would like to see it definitely break through the October high to see some form of continuation, that we are going to move higher. The fact that the way it has fallen, that's another interesting point in itself. And the reason I say that is because, we talk about these euphoric moves up and down, the fear and the greed. That generally shows up in price with those really sharp, fast moves. If we just go back to the chart, you can see that we saw something very similar in August 2021. And then we saw a really, similar unfolding in August 2024. How fun is that?
It's just bizarre, isn't it, the way that it's unfolded?
Yeah, but
it looks more bearish as a topping pattern, partially forming than, we've seen the three tops on Rio. We're seeing a peaking out on FMG and a pullback. And while there may be short-term opportunities in there, from a big picture perspective, if you stand back, this doesn't look like a consolidation that you'd expect to see before a big push up.
It's much more volatile. Generally, those consolidations are much tighter that you're talking about to see those next legs up. But, it could be the fact that, we did see quite a bit of consolidation in December 22. Then we got that shot, that shoot out to a new all-time high. And it is not that uncommon when stocks break to new all-time highs that they do experience pullbacks. And the fact that it's coming back to the $16-ish level, that's been the springboard for the last two rises. So we're getting to a level where there is value, albeit in, since 2020. But, we always talk about confirmation. Right now, from the way this has fallen, 1 month doesn't mean anything. So,
So you're
really
still being a
early
bit
days.
cautious?
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So next stock?
All right, next we have mineral resources. Now, this is another
Why are
one.
you laughing?
Just because we're talking about capitulations, and
We were, yeah.
it doesn't get any bigger than mineral resources lately. So
Now, this is a stock that someone's asked us to look at as well tonight. So we don't want to spill everything, do we?
well, okay, we'll keep some in the
So
back
viewer-
pocket
So
then.
we've got this on a viewer question, have we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so what
But,
are you going to talk about it now?
Well, let's have a good look at it
Or are
now,
you going to
because
skip it?
No, not at all. We're going to go through it now. The question was more trading related, but in terms of the stock, what's quite interesting is, obviously it's been falling away. It did find this period in January 2024. You saw it consolidate, and it looked like it was going to, coming out of a rise, consolidation, pullback, it was going to get on with it. But really, as it started, this bar here in particular, May 24, gave you the big, sorry, this isn't happening right now. And what happened was really strong expansion to the downside. And what's not positive about recent price action is look at September's month. Big pickup of buying around $30, rises up, closes on the high. October, we're almost wiped out most three-quarters of what we went up in September.
Well, we were talking about that on our market report that we do for Talking Wealth. And we're saying just be careful, this could be a suckers rally back last month. And it's turning out to be exactly that.
Yeah.
Spot on.
Because it was like, the top performer over a number of weeks. Where it was shot up over September, and it's like Phil and I are going, yeah, just be careful. So you're thinking it's got further to go?
The way it looks right now in October, definitely it doesn't look like it's finding any support right now.
Is it getting near the bottom?
If we were to draw levels where it could get to, I'll apply a few levels in terms of where it could stop. There is a level through here. So $23 looks like, from a technical perspective, could be a level, but then if it continues lower than that, we're probably getting back to, $20. Really, which the way it's looking, and the volatility is increasing. That's the scary thing. Generally, you see when stocks are going to get picked up off lows, they're not going to make moves really sharp to the upside, because you've got to think, institutions are trying to pick up these positions.
Yeah.
They're not going to be able to pick them up in a day or a week. They're going to take time. So if it is going to shoot up quite strongly, there's a very high chance it's going to come back down to get that average price in terms of the buying. So right now, perhaps we're seeing some of that. But as
I guess they can just hold off, can't they? They're buying, just see what the market does and then look to go back in again.
Well, it'd be bad for business if you're trying to chase a stock running 20% a week or a month. Really.
Well, yeah, I mean, they've got to buy so many stocks, so
Yeah.
they're just going to try and drip feed them through and keep their average price at a fairly decent range, because they'll set a minimum of X and a maximum of X, and they want to keep trading in that range. They're not going to be wanting to follow at 20% all over
Well, they're not
the
wanting
place.
to be wanting to hold something like this anyway.
And more importantly than anything, it's about trying to find that confirmation. I mean, if we just go back to the chart and go on the weekly, because, sometimes the shorter term time frame might show us things. And right now, obviously, unlike BHP, Rio and FMG, look how much this has fallen relative to that rise up in the 27th. So it looks like this week we're going to go and take these lows out, which does not bode well for this particular stock. But if it starts to find a reversal through here, then maybe that is a significant low, 13th of September. But we trade on confirmation, not speculation.
So you're going to show us an exciting stock that we can start trading soon?
Janine?
We're just getting everybody prepared for all of these good opportunities when they come up. It's about being prepared ahead of time. It doesn't have to be right now, so just
Isn't
hold
that
the horses.
a good answer?
There you go.
All right. Okay, we've got Champion Iron Limited. This one actually is really interesting, isn't it? Just the fact that it's made all these tops here. So we'll go to the monthly chart first. It's making higher lows, but then it's making these sort of tops that are all hanging around at the same level. So when you get that happening, it can be a really easy and black and white sort of way of thinking about, well, okay, if it eventually gets through there again, then the probability is much higher for it to continue to rise. So don't jump into a sucker's rally, just play it safe and always look at your monthly chart. Same thing's happening. Obviously, we've got the pullback into October, the pressure's coming off, but let's see if it takes out this August 2023 low. If it does, just walk away, just leave it. If you're still holding the stock, I'd be a bit concerned about that given all of this volatility going on, but given that it's risen up strongly last month, I guess if you're still holding it, just wait and see what happens at the end of this month. Weekly chart will tell us all at the moment. So we're seeing 3 weeks down right now after that big pullback. Same sort of thing as the other stocks again. But this low, if it gets taken out, then clearly it's still on a significant decline.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, if we just go back to the monthly, what you're seeing, especially with it, just looks like it's struggling at the highs. It's only taking them out by a real small margin and then finding its way back. Really range bound right now. I mean, we can even add a line through here and show you that this stock really is stuck, albeit somewhat sideways. And
it's almost like they're waiting. Okay, let's just range trade these stocks for a while because we don't know what China's going to do. And once China sort of gives us a bit more concrete information, maybe then we'll push it harder. But they're just sort of getting the clips, aren't they?
Well, it could be that, or it could also be the fact that it is range bound, that there is a big position building up. It could also be that as well. The fact that it's building up at the all-time. I mean, it's only an $8 stock, so one thing could be to go and have a look at the company itself.
So you're saying that someone keeps picking it up at the bottoms?
Yes, but it's not. But the thing is, it's not going on with it. So it's being held up on the other side, which is quite interesting. And given it's moving up and down in this type of fashion, to me, it's either a period it's accumulating, it's either someone's distributing, or as you said, there's a lot of indecision right now. So it's hit fair value, if you will, about $7-8, and it's just being range traded. Nothing new, and it might need some kind of catalyst to really send it to the next level, which it's not seeing at the moment.
I mean, sometimes these sort of patterns can occur at tops or just before the top it tries to make another run, but we've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 goes at it. You think after that many goes at it, and again here, and it's failed, you just think, can you just sell it off, so at least if it falls away, then I've got some good bearings on where it's going.
Well, the good thing, what you could do is, the longer this thing goes sideways, the more probabilities that at some point when it breaks out, it's going to break out quite strongly. And if it does it to the upside, I mean, you could even just throw this on your watch list right now, wait for it to get above this line, wait for it to get above $8.50, set your alerts, sit there. Whenever it does it does it. That way, above $8.50, it's in new territory. Perhaps it's time to break out into trend.
Yeah, good point. I mean, if it does break up onto the upside, I guess the other thought is where could it go? I mean, it could end up, if we look at it, could end up somewhere up around $12 quite easily if it does break up on the upside. It has to jump a lot of hurdles
about the
for
next
me
stock
though.
because that one was better than the last one. Hey.
Okay, the next one we've got is Datira Royalties Limited.
You're going to love this one.
I love them all.
Now this one, look, there's no good news right now. It's the same scenario. It's like we're seeing a repeat. Now this is what I hate about our market. It's this contrived AI trading that's going on that's actually trading everything very...
AI or algo?
Algo, same. It's trading everything in a very similar fashion, but what that tells you is when eventually things turn around and the market, the big players decide, right, BHP and Rio are going up, all of these little stocks are going to go up and they'll go up much faster. So I would have BHP and Rio on the list and possibly FMG, but also have maybe a couple of these smaller ones just to keep an eye on because they could be good for, short to medium term trades.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm interested about these algos, Janine.
Well,
must have the inside
we'll
scoop.
tell you later on, okay?
All right.
Don't tell you. Another stock.
Now we're getting a bit less liquid now, aren't we?
Yeah, we are a little bit, but it is an iron ore stock. We're looking at the iron ore sector. If anything, what's eye-opening about the iron ore stocks we've looked at today, big and getting smaller, is that right now things aren't ready just yet. So that's the important thing to take from this. I mean, like Janine said, when things aren't ready, that's probably the best time to be looking at them.
Well, because you're not under pressure to make a decision immediately and getting FOMO and all of that sort of stuff. Where too many traders we see they're pushing the button because they've seen a bit of information and they got FOMO and they boof into it. Whereas our people that we're mentoring, they attack the market because they stalk it and then they attack it at the right time. And that's why it's so much less stress and so much more money. But I'm taking you away from your chart.
You have, and probably good reason you have, because this one here also, I mean, you know what, let's not write it off too much, but because this, if we go on the monthly chart right now, what's quite interesting about this stock is that following the 2014 capitulation, we're giving those signs of that really strong accumulation type move where, expansion, contraction, accumulation. Now, right now, we haven't obviously gone on with it too much, but we aren't going any lower, and that's the point.
It's looking good.
Yeah, we've,
It's opposite, obviously, to the big stocks. It's going up.
Okay. We've got the last one.
It'd be interesting to do a little bit of research on this. I think that's important too with the smaller stocks, just to find out a bit more about what's driving it.
You need to, All right. Last one is Mount Gibson Iron. Now, a stock that's been around for a while, but again, trading at levels that have been springboards for moves in the past. And right now, as Janine said, it's about probably digging into the company a little more, finding out what might be that catalyst that's going to send it higher, because right now it looks like price is just trying to find its feet and waiting for something to happen.
You could get a nice trend line down there across those stocks, couldn't you?
You could. The fact that it's taken out these lows through here, I mean, if we just apply a line through there. The fact that it's taken that out, that's not too promising. But like you said, Janine, if we can, get...
Sometimes you get that flush out through those lows and then it turns around.
And if we can get a move above this line through here, 50 cents, and find our feet above 50, 60 cents, then short to medium term, you might have some opportunity there.
All right, well, fantastic. Well, it sounds as if we've got some really, really good stocks there, but not right now. So what you're saying, probably the biggest thing is get prepared. Get ready for the rocket ship to take off. So you're giving some people some lower cap stocks that are likely to do really, really well, and obviously some staples like BHP, Rio and Fortescue. Any last words before we move on?
Yeah, and don't try to hit all targets. Just have a really good set of rules that works for the stock over time, and just be waiting. I mean, that's, it's funny, isn't it? Because when you first start learning to trade, you feel really busy learning and applying the analysis. But once you've got the rules, you can just sit back and wait for them to trigger.
It's really, really easy. All right, well, thanks for that, team. Now stay with us as we'll be right back after this short break. This week on Talking Wealth, explore Nvidia's rise, meme stocks and tech's future with Emmanuel Danielle.
What we're looking at when we're dealing with Nvidia is that we're not at a point where we should classify it, but it's got a lot of new fundamentals that we have not seen in stocks before.
Andrew Einhorn shares his hedge fund strategies.
There are huge opportunities, and this is why the largest hedge funds in the world all have 10 to 20% of their investment strategies focused on event-driven trading.
Dale and I discuss which coal stocks are set to rise amidst global demand.
We are exporting a shed load of coal out of Australia to other economies like China and other areas around the world. We're exporting a lot of it and it's not falling away, which shows there's going to be strong demand for it. So if it's not falling away, then it's either going to go sideways or up, and eventually it's going to stop going sideways. Get your free 7-day trial now to watch this and more.
Only on Talking Wealth.
That amazing content you just saw is going live this Thursday on Talking Wealth. Moving on, if you want to talk about a stock or ask us a question, pick up your phone right now and give us a call on 039290 09988. That's 03 for Melbourne, 929 09988. Or you can text the number on your screen. Now, whilst we wait for your call, let's get into our next email. Now, Dean wants to know whether it's time to get out of mineral resources. I purchased Min on the 30th of September 2024 at $50.96. I had an exit price of $43.36. However, I had not set this up in my broker platform. On Monday, it gapped 13.76% and took out my stop loss, and I'm still in the position. Should I wait for it to recover or take a loss of 22.36%? Who do I go to on this one?
That's harsh, isn't
I'll go
it?
to you, Janine, because you'll be softer.
Yeah, okay. Look, I actually feel for you. You know, this is a tough one. You know, in this situation, what could you do? You had your stop in place. You were doing all the right things. That's all I can say. But this is just the market. Sometimes stocks will gap down. It's just the reality of it. But the fact that you're sitting there and you're saying, okay, what am I going to do now? It's gapped through my stop. Just get out is one option. And that's probably the one that if you know you were sticking to your rules precisely, then you would have moved to do that. If you're umming and ahhing, it may be because you've got some sort of fear happening there. The psychology side is huge in the stock market, so that's one thing to be mindful of. So I would actually write some notes on this trade. It's so important to learn from this one, so that in future if it happens again, and it probably will, it's just the reality of the stock market, isn't it?
Well, it is, but sometimes when you get stuck in a stock like this and it gaps down on you, it's because your buy was wrong. Nothing else was wrong. So whilst you might have put your stop loss in, and whether you put it in your broker platform or not is irrelevant to me. It's like,
what were your rules?
What were the rules to get in? What are the rules to get out and follow the rules? So have we got where he bought on the chart?
Yes.
Is he buying the right spot, or did he get into a suckers rally?
No, you know, to me it looks like he was chasing. He literally bought the week after the 27th of September, which was that, you know, euphoric buying. So chasing the market a little bit, if you will.
Look, I have to defend him because there is a rule there to buy. So I can actually see a rule there. He could have bought on that rule. I don't know if he did or not. But if he did and he got caught, then there's nothing else he could do. We have to look at both sides of this.
Yeah, but it's a confluence of things, isn't it? I'm not saying we did or not, because you've got the chart in front of you, not me. So is there a confluence of rules that are strong enough to put a buy into there? And Phil and I looked at this stock last week, or a couple of weeks ago, and we went, nah, not hoping hell we'd be in this stock.
Based on the China stimulus.
Well, it was just a speculative move up, and so...
Well, we always say in the market, you know, when you've always got to put in perspective the relationship between the buyers and the sellers. Now, if we just go to the monthly chart, you look at mineral resources, regardless of what happened with the China stimulus, this stock, since May 2024, has been in absolute free fall. So trying to pick up a stock that's falling for 5-6 months down heavily, probably the heaviest that it's fallen since the all-time high,
It's not a wise move.
is not a wise move. You're trying to catch a falling knife, regardless of how strong 1 week is. 1 week doesn't make a trend. So to me, I'm going to have to say, no, it's not a good place to get your buy. The fact that you've gapped down on your stop, that is unfortunate.
Yeah.
But rules are rules, get out, mate.
I'm with Phil. Rules are rules are rules are rules, because if it does keep falling away from where it is, how are you going to feel in a week or 2 weeks' time if it's fallen a lot further? So, and you can always get back in if you do exit to protect your capital. So you need to make a good decision on your trading. So make trader's decision from now moving forward. Now we've got a text from Paula who is asking thoughts on BOT. Has been going down for the last few weeks. Not sure if it's just a nice pullback or going into a downtrend. Bought it sometime in November last year at 14.5 cents. Thanks, Paula. What do you reckon, Phil?
Nice stock, isn't it?
Fantastic, yes. All right, let's go to the chart, Paula. Very interesting that you bought it 14.5 cents, so you really caught the run up just before this huge run that's happened. In terms of whether it could be the end of the move, there is one scenario to say that it might be, but then again, the fact that the stock has only had 1 month down, it really comes down to I guess your outlook in terms of how you're trading this stock. Are you short, medium, long term? Because at the end of the day, we always talk about let your profits run, cut your losses short. Now, if you're trading this from a long term perspective on the monthly chart, 1 month down, to me doesn't signal a reversal. But if we go to the weekly chart and go more short term, then perhaps there is an argument through here that we are starting to see the end of the run up. We've got a break of a potential momentum line through here. We've got lower highs coming through here. So there is early signals from this perspective. So I don't exactly know what your, time frame in terms of the trade is. And so that's the most important part when you're dealing with when to sell. Because one person selling might be good for them, but then it might not be so good for a longer term type situation. So really it comes down to really honing in and confirming for yourself when it is that you're selling and what your outlook for that trade is.
It's whatever your analysis is. If your analysis indicates it's finished its trend, then it's time to get out. Yeah. She's doubled her money, which is a great trade, but that's not the reason to get out just because it started falling away. It's about having your own strategy, Paula. So great stock though, that the guys have given you thumbs up. Now my next question comes from Suzanne regarding the short to medium term outlook for A2 milk. She goes on to say, I purchased the stock at $6.25 in May with a 20% stop loss. It nearly triggered my stop loss in September, and today I'm down nearly 7% from my buy price. Should I cut my losses down and put my money into another stock? Or could it possibly be taking a breather and could recommence the uptrend with the overall bullish market going forward? Now, this has been a stellar stock since December last year. Really good. What do you reckon, Janine?
I like the stock, so good stock choice. And looking at the rules, I don't see anything wrong with them. I think that there was some resistance overhead, so you'd have to expect that A2 milk was going to pull back because you've got all these peaks here, short-term resistance around that $7 mark, which it broke through that after having a bit of a push up, and since then went sideways before falling out of bed. But the fact that it's actually moved up, I'm not concerned about it right now. It's too early days to know whether the stock's going to fall away or not. But the fact that you've got your stop in play, I mean, if you've put a stop in place, congratulations to you. Why wouldn't you use it? And why second guess it at this point if you've worked out what you're prepared to risk? And now it's about letting the stock unfold. That's my view.
Well, to me, when you put a stop loss in, you've worked out the stop loss, which means you've got reasoning around why you set it at where you set it and how you set it. So why would you then, weeks or months later, go, oh, I don't know whether I should take my stop loss now?
The only thing it might be is if its stocks come back, like it has. We've seen this stock gap down and then it's had this massive reversal. It may be cause to say, well, okay, maybe I can put my stop up a little bit, and the more logical place might be to stick it under that low instead. But that's a call to make to weigh up the decision.
To me, if I can just quickly, it probably speaks a little bit to the psychology of trading because, it got so close to your stop initially. That would have caused the panic or somewhat to some degree. Now it's moved back to your buy price and you're thinking, you know what? Should I just get out and not go through that whole experience again, potentially? And so I commend you for not letting your stop get hit. That shows the growth of a trader, really, to be able to withstand that drawdown. Now that you're back at break even, I would say wipe that from your memory in terms of that experience and let the stock what it was going to do initially, because it looks like it's had its pullback. You had your stop potentially in the right place, and it's coming now after a big rise. So stick with it.
I like the stock too, Janine. I'm on with you. So, well, good, wise words from the team here. Now we've got a caller on the line. Welcome to the Australian Stock Market Show. Who have I got on the line?
Hello?
Hello. Who have I got on the line?
Yeah. Hi, guys. Yeah, it's Peter here.
Welcome to the show, Peter. What's your question for us, mate?
I'm just looking at a stock today, this afternoon, doing a little bit of work on Magellan Financial Group, MFG.
Yep.
Had a pretty serious downtrend, but been sitting at the bottom, and in the last couple of days it sort of just cracked through the $11 mark, and I suppose I was just want to know your thoughts, maybe on a bit of a long-term situation on this thing and what your thoughts were.
All right, so you're not in it, you're looking to get into it. Yep.
Looking at it, doing homework on it. Yep.
Ah, fantastic. Well, the guys have got it up on the screen. Thanks for calling in, Peter. Okay, I'm going to go to Phil. I tricked you on that one.
Let's go to the chart and have a look for you. And I'd say what, Peter, it's a great idea right now. I love the fact that you're looking at it, because the stock, in terms of price action, is doing things that should make you look at it. I'll put it that way. But what I mean by that is, obviously it's coming out of this low, and it has stopped falling since January 2023 and giving us this really strong, I guess, basing type accumulation pattern. Now, the fact that it's taken out this high in August 2024, we're now confirming for a second period from coming out of this October low that we do want to go higher. We had a break in August 2024 of the previous high. Now again, we're breaking out in October. We've taken out the other previous level of resistance, which is the August 23 high. I think this stock looks like it is slowly turning the corner. So right now it really boils down to what kind of strategy you're going to place, where you're going to place your risk. Are you going to give it a lot more, given it is coming out of the lows?
He's talking long term, Peter.
Yeah. So, and then that question needs to be asked, if you're thinking long term, are you going to give it more room in terms of volatility for it to move up and down, given it is at significant lows? Or are you going to be much tighter on your stop and really ride the trend while it's happening? Because anything can happen at these lows. It could just rise up for a bit and then reverse. So right now it's about the strategy, but I really like the way this looks.
I'll let you have a few words, Janine.
Good on you. All right, I like it too. Good choice. So looking at this one now, it's been up for about 12 months. So it's important just to go back and have a look at the past and see what it did. I mean, in the past, it can just trade sideways for a few years and not even move on. So is that what we're about to see right now? Let's just go for the shorter term time frame just to have a look and see where it's closing. Now we can see this week it's being sold down a bit, so there may be a little bit of resistance from this high here and also this one that it just broke through. I'd let it pull back and then wait to see it go back through those levels. I'm just going to mark it again across here. See the pullback, it's been going up for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks now. So that'd be ideal, and then to see it rocket on it'd be exciting, wouldn't it?
Wise words from Janine. Well, now we're moving on. Dion is next and would like our thoughts on NGI. It has come off the $1 level with unfolding with higher peaks and troughs on the monthly chart. It has also broken the downtrend line. Current pattern is similar to the breakout above $1 back in 2014. However, there is resistance, or a resistance level, around $2.30. I'm considering an entry price if it breaks and holds above the $2.30. Strategies for the short to medium term trade. I'm going to go back to you, Jane.
Yeah, okay.
Did so well on that last stock.
Thank you for that. Now, if we have a look at the chart, we can see there's a fair bit of resistance from this high here. So the high is 232. So this is where you're talking about $2.30 buying above that level. I think in the case of this one, if we get this pullback 3 months down, looks even, and if it goes charging through that high, I'd actually be quite comfortable with it if it closes strongly above that level, and not necessarily too worried about this particular high, just because we've had the strength in that pullback 3 months down and it hasn't come back anywhere near this low here. So, but it's all about how far it comes back. If it continues to fall away closer to this low and then moves up, I guess I would rely on this prior high here. But sometimes you get some really nice little setups where a stock can run for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months, pull back for a few months, and then run for 4 to 6 months on its way again.
Any thoughts, Phil?
I just like the fact that he's looking back through periods in the past, particularly this 2014 period, and seeing, what did the stock do back at those levels? Because you can really gauge, particularly when you go out big picture, where the real significant moments were where a stock got on with things, and that was where, in the past there was that value. So the fact that he's identified that, and I totally agree with everything Janine said in terms of, it can get going from here, but I don't hate the idea of waiting for it to break above 230 and test the level on the other side, because, if this has got legs and we are seeing some kind of basing pattern, we can get going to $4 or $5 easy.
Well, there you go. You've heard it from the team. Now we have a text from Craig, who is asking our thoughts on APX or Appen. I'm waiting for confirmation to buy it for the medium term. Thanks, Craig. I know You guys keep telling me it's my favourite stock. So I haven't looked at it for a few weeks, so I'm excited to hear what your thinking is.
Yes.
So you can go, Janine.
Oh, really? Oh, gee, I give it another shot.
3 in a
Wow.
row.
Unbelievable. I'm on a winning streak here. Okay, let's go for APX, and we can see that this incredible rise that you've missed has actually, it's taken out this high here. He's not going to say anything. And we've seen this high get taken out. The prior highs got taken out as well. So the next levels are more or less up around this, what's that, $3.20 probably. So we could see a little bit of a pullback, and then it may continue on. Right now, I just leave it settle and just watch it. So let's just go to the weekly chart and have a look at what's going on with the weekly chart. Oh, we are on the weekly chart. But yeah, so if given it's the weekly chart, I would like to see it come down for another week before it moves up again. But I think it's looking really nice.
Yeah,
Phil's
it's
not excited.
It's interesting. I wouldn't be looking at it in terms of medium to long term, not just yet. And the reason I say that is because if we get this rectangle through here, you can see that and we talk about, where do institutions leave footprints, or where does big money leave footprints in terms of price action? And this through here at about $3 was where there was a big, you can clearly see agreement in price and then the capitulation. Now we're coming into that level right now. So I think the stock currently is positioned at a make or break type point. I think if it doesn't get through these levels strongly, then it's going to find resistance through here. The only other thing that's quite positive, if you will, is that there's a huge bunch of volume coming in. More volume than anything in the past. If you just hover your eye through the volume here, it's the most amount of volume we've seen. First we saw a bout of it back in March, and now we're seeing another bout in August. So I think the fact that it is in trend, if it can get through this level through here, Janine, you're smiling. Yeah, you're right. I'm going to say it. Janine's right.
Janine's getting excited. I might have to have another look at it myself then. Now remember to show your support for our channel and smash that like button right now. Now if you enjoy watching and want to see loads more of our content, click subscribe now. Now subscribing helps others find our channel so we can help them too. Now before we let you go, what was your favourite part of the show? Was it our hot stock tip, our topic for the night, or was it a viewer question? Now let us know by commenting below. Thanks to those who are watching on YouTube and Facebook, and if you want to get to the Microcap Conference and meet Phil and I next Tuesday and Wednesday here in Melbourne at the Soffit Hotel. Now if you're watching on talkingwealth.com, stay tuned for more exciting stock picks, insights and strategies. We'll be right back with all of that and more. Next week in our main topic, we get into top 10 lithium and copper stocks to buy. Stock prices to explode. Make sure you join us next Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Australian Eastern Time. Now, if you love our show, remember to hit that like button now and subscribe to our channel, as this shows your support for the team that puts in the effort each and every week into bringing it to you. If you are subscribed, then you'll always know when we go live and put up new content. As always, thank you for joining us for now. Goodbye, good luck and good trading.